Today, we're diving into the epic story of the British Empire, how it rose from a small island nation to the most powerful empire in history, and how its legacy continues to shape the modern world. From colonization and global trade to rebellion and independence, this is the story of the British Empire's rise, fall, and its lasting influence on language, politics, and the global economy. The British Empire began in the late 16th century with explorers and privateers like Sir Francis Drake. Motivated by trade, competition, and religion, England started establishing overseas colonies. The first permanent settlement came in 1607 at Jamestown, Virginia. Over the next 2 centuries, the British expanded across North America, the Caribbean, Africa, and Asia. It was fueled by naval power, economic ambition, and a growing belief in imperial destiny. British colonization used various strategies: settler colonies in places like Canada and Australia, trade ports in India and Southeast Asia, and exploitation colonies across Africa and the Caribbean. These regions were used for raw materials, cheap labor, and strategic control. Indigenous populations were displaced or subjugated. Infrastructure, legal systems, and English education were introduced, often erasing local cultures in the process, laying the foundation for lasting tensions. The empire became the engine of global trade. Goods like tea, sugar, cotton, and opium flowed through British-controlled routes. The East India Company played a major role in colonizing India and securing trade monopolies. British ports boomed, while colonies often suffered exploitation. The transatlantic slave trade became central to the economy, particularly in the Caribbean. The empire's wealth grew enormously, but at great human cost. By the late 19th century, Britain controlled nearly a quarter of the world's land and population. The phrase "the sun never sets" on the British Empire was literally true. Queen Victoria's reign saw an explosion of imperial pride. Railways, telegraphs, and steamships connected the empire. Yet, beneath the surface, resistance was brewing. Indigenous leaders, freedom movements, and anti-colonial thinkers were preparing to challenge British rule. World War I strained the empire economically and militarily. Colonial troops fought for Britain, hoping for political reform in return. After the war, unrest spread. Ireland rebelled, India demanded independence, and Egypt resisted British control. Meanwhile, Britain's global influence was beginning to wane as other powers rose. The seeds of decolonization had been planted, and the empire's days of dominance were numbered. World War II was the breaking point. Britain was financially drained, and its global grip weakened. India gained independence in 1947, triggering a wave of decolonization across Africa, the Caribbean, and Asia. By the 1960s, most former colonies were independent nations. Some retained ties through the Commonwealth, but the empire as it was had collapsed. Britain shifted focus to Europe and the US, no longer a global superpower. The British Empire's legacy is complex. English remains a global language, used in diplomacy, business, and education. Legal and political systems in many countries are based on British models. But there's also deep trauma, partition in India, ethnic divisions in Africa, and economic dependency. Post-colonial societies continue to grapple with identity, development, and healing. The empire is gone, but its influence lives on, for better or worse. Today, Britain struggles with how to remember its imperial past. Museums, monuments, and school curriculums are increasingly under scrutiny. Some call for reparations or apologies, while others resist confronting the darker aspects of empire. Brexit reignited debates about Britain's global role, identity, and nostalgia for imperial power. Understanding this history is crucial to building a fairer, more inclusive future, both in Britain and in former colonies. After the fall of the empire, many former colonies joined the Commonwealth, a voluntary association promoting cooperation, trade, and shared values. But critics argue the Commonwealth is largely symbolic, offering little tangible benefit. While it provides a forum for dialogue, the organization lacks real power. Still, events like the Commonwealth Games and annual summits help maintain soft ties between nations with shared colonial histories, some embracing it, others viewing it as a relic. The British Empire drew borders with little regard for ethnic, tribal, or religious realities. From the partition of India and Pakistan to the division of Africa at the Berlin Conference, these arbitrary lines have caused decades of conflict. Civil wars, refugee crises, and ongoing disputes often trace back to colonial decisions. These imperial scars continue to challenge nation-building and peace efforts across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East to this day. Colonial economies were designed to serve British interests. Raw materials were extracted, local industries suppressed, and wealth flowed out of colonies. After independence, many nations lacked infrastructure, capital, or diversified economies. This legacy of extraction contributed to poverty, corruption, and reliance on foreign aid. While some former colonies have emerged as economic powerhouses, others still struggle with underdevelopment, a direct result of imperial economic systems. Many former colonies still use British-style education systems, literature, and curricula that prioritize European history and values. Today, there's a growing push to decolonize education, to center local histories, languages, and perspectives. Movements in universities across Africa, India, and the Caribbean aim to reclaim cultural identity and restore pride in indigenous knowledge. The debate continues: how do we balance global education with respect for local heritage? Across the UK and former colonies, debates rage over statues, street names, and institutions honoring imperial figures. Should they be removed, contextualized, or preserved? Campaigns like Rhodes Must Fall and global protests after George Floyd's death have reignited calls to confront colonial history. Museums face pressure to return looted artifacts. This reckoning isn't about erasing history, it's about telling the full story and acknowledging the human cost of empire. The British Empire is remembered differently around the world. In the UK, some view it as a source of pride, a time of power, exploration, and influence. In former colonies, memories are more complex: resistance, trauma, but also transformation. Some nations have reclaimed imperial tools like English or legal systems and used them to grow. Others seek justice or reparations. How the empire is remembered depends on where you stand and whose history is being told. Though the empire is gone, its echoes remain. Global migration, multicultural cities, English as a lingua franca, and shared institutions all trace back to imperial connections. Former colonies shape today's Britain, from cuisine and music to politics and identity. Meanwhile, Britain's global role continues to shift. As new powers rise and old wounds are reassessed, the British Empire serves as both a cautionary tale and a reminder. History never truly ends, it evolves. The British Empire shaped the modern world in profound ways, creating connections, fueling conflict, and rewriting borders. Its rise brought unprecedented global integration, but its fall left scars that still affect millions. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. How should we remember the British Empire? Let's keep the conversation going. See you in the next video.